All right, everybody, welcome into the Fifth Dimension podcast. Oh, brave new world, we're diving into it today, baby. Orgy, porgy, Ford and fun. Kiss the girls and make them one. Boys at one with girls at peace. Orgy, porgy gives release. Woo! Oh, brave new world, here we go. I hope y'all are having a wonderful, wonderful day. I'm Evan McDermott. This is the Fifth Dimension podcast. And if you don't recognize that little chant or song, I guess you could even call it a chant or a mantra. It is simulating a religious experience, which I'll dive into a little bit later. If you're not familiar with that, it is from Brave New World. And I really want to talk about how Aldous Huxley outlined a lot of the ideals that we are seeing manifest in the present day. A lot of people like to think that we're in a 1984 Orwellian New World Order, when the reality is our predicament looks much more Huxleyan. Find me my soma. Let's take a permanent holiday vacation, baby. Distractions, comfort. Woo! Orgy, porgy, Ford and fun. Kiss the girls and make them one. Ooh, how fun does that sound? Everybody, welcome in. If you're a fan of the show, be sure to subscribe. Substack, McDermott.substack.com. There is going to be a write-up with this podcast that is released at the same time. So if you're interested in reading my thoughts on this and sort of seeing this written out in essay form, be sure to check out McDermott.substack.com. Be sure to subscribe, whatever platform you're on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And hit me up on all the social medias, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you may be. And I guess we can dive into it. When we look at the state of the world today, what is it that the majority, not everybody, maybe not even the majority, maybe it's an illusion that it's the majority. I certainly think so, but the foundation, at least for societal conditioning, when we look at it, what is that foundation? It is the pursuit of pleasure. It is the externalization of self, the externalization of meaning and purpose. Now, I've done a lot of research on just the idea of meaning in the past year. I mean, hence the Substack title is Deeper Meaning. And meaning is actually a sensory perception. It's directly related to our spiritual consciousness and a internal knowing of who we are. And really, meaning requires solitude. It requires reflection. It requires reclaiming your individual spirit. Now, when we look at the world today, the foundational issue is we lack meaning. And the reason for this is because of our collectivist mentality. In Brave New World, in particular, the foundational principle is for the greater good. It's a collectivist society. This is what Huxley depicts, collectivism. It's what happens when you decimate, not even necessarily decimate, voluntarily sacrifice your own individual spirit for the idea of a collective ideal, right? You give yourself up for the greater good of society. And really, this idea of collectivism is a deep inversion of one of the spiritual notion of sacrifice. You look at the story of Jesus, died for the sake of mankind. One would make the argument that in itself is that collectivism? I personally don't believe so, because in that notion, mankind is reconnecting with their soul, released from the grasps of Satan in this case for their sins. And really, the ultimate sin in this reality, as Father Sean O'Leary pointed out in our most recent podcast, highly encourage you guys to check that one out. The greatest sin in this world is not acknowledging the God in you, not acknowledging your own spiritual consciousness. So one could say that Jesus was acting as a collectivist, but I don't believe that to be the case. He was serving the individual spirit and promoting the reclamation of Christ consciousness within each individual. So this idea of collectivism and sacrificing oneself for the greater good is a deep, deep, deep inversion, and one that is spiritually enticing for individuals. This idea of sacrifice. We all want to be of service. I believe that we are all, and I don't even believe, I know that we are all capable of love. We are all capable of morality that is in alignment with the highest of ethics. It's only our programming, our conditioning, our society that promotes this division and people thinking that humanity is somehow flawed, somehow needs to be controlled. So from the very get-go, Huxley is outlining a society where there is no individuality. He states very blatantly, fertility is a nuisance, and I'm going to talk about fertility in just a moment and why this is such an important concept. Fertility is a nuisance. Solitude, unbearable. You can't have solitude. It's very interesting to watch this idea of solitude play out in Brave New World. And, one of the, I hesitate to even call him a protagonist because he's so flawed. I guess it's more of like an anti-hero, Bernard, but he was deeply craving solitude, right? But I guess he is a protagonist. He's just so caught, and everybody's so caught in their own conditioning, and he is deeply craving more, but there isn't even the way to rationalize that based on the conditioning and programming. And I want to get into what that conditioning and programming looks like. If you haven't read Brave New World, that's okay. I think I'm going to really explain it in a way that is still relevant, that still allows you to tap into the deeper meaning here. So this conditioning really eliminates solitude. It eliminates spirit. Because, like I said at the beginning, freedom, spiritual consciousness, a sense of meaning comes from solitude, comes from self-reflection. And in the Brave New World, that is non-existent. Now, there are very, very chilling, I would say, ominous connections in regards to technology and scientific advancement in Brave New World, which I find very fascinating. Over the last few years, we have all seen the trust the science mentality. We have all seen how the World Economic Forum, Noah Yuval Harari, these types of people promote science, and humans, us, or well, the ruling class, the scientists, the ones who rule this technocracy as the gods, what we are witnessing, and this is Harari's direct quote, scientific or human evolution driven by scientific enhancement. Human evolution driven by scientific enhancement. What could that potentially mean? And really, what we are doing when he says humans are the new gods, free will is no longer applicable, doesn't exist. He's speaking about this same collectivist ideal in that science is leading in humanity's next step forward, right? With scientific advancement, ultimately we can decide where to go. Well, not we. When I say we, I'm talking about this elite group. They can decide where we go, who we're meant to be, what is the next great step for mankind. And really, if you've listened to any of my podcasts with James Tunney, you've heard a lot about transhumanism, the man and machine merger. So these ideas are not something new on this podcast. We've talked about this quite a bit. I would encourage you guys to go and listen to my James Tunney podcasts because they are very, very in-depth about this transhumanist movement, the man and machine merger, and the technocratic agenda that is manifesting. So Harari says that we are the gods, we are self-driving evolution. These are deeply rooted in eugenics principles, which has always been about choosing who and how we're going to be created with science. We want the best qualities, the best traits. And really, this technological enhancement is a modern form of eugenics. It's the same exact principles, only incorporating our newfound technological ability to really connect with these machines. And when I say connect, it's not so much a connect. I guess even the word connect implies that it is a symbiotic relationship, when that's not necessarily the case. It's really interlinking or sacrificing our sovereignty from the algorithmic programming of a machine. Once we interlink with an artificial intelligence, we look at somebody like Elon Musk, and I've talked a little bit about Elon on this show. You look at somebody like Elon Musk creating Neuralink, creating the smart grid through SpaceX, and shooting up satellites in the sky by the thousands, really creating an inescapable smart grid. Why do you think they have smart appliances? Why do you think they have making autonomous and electric vehicles? They want everything connected to this electrical grid, and that includes every human being with technology that is implantable within your body. Now, people talk about, oh, you're already being tracked with your smartphone. Yes, that is true. You're already in this smart grid. It's likely there is already nanotechnology inside the human being. Project Bluebeam, Sergey Manas demonstrated that they created the technology in the 70s to be able to implant thoughts within the human being. So, and through especially, you got to be very wary about what it is and where it is you're channeling from. For example, if you're a spiritual channeler, right? Is this authentic to my heart, or is this serving a larger agenda? Because the channeling phenomenon took off as soon as this technology was created. Who would have thought? But really, with all of these technologies being created, as James Tunney puts it, we are being led directly into an automated new world order. So the technocracy itself really is self-sufficient, doesn't need human intervention. And people need to realize that this technology and AI and all of these systems that we're being guided into, they are devoid of ethics, of morality, of meaning, of purpose. Why? Because it is serving an automated system. And in order to have a system of automation, everything needs to fall into place automatically. That means, what is the role of the human? It is that of an automaton serving automaticity, as James brilliantly points out in the podcast him and I have done, right? So we're finding ourselves entering into this system that appears, once you're a part of it, there's no escaping it. So how do we combat that? I'm going to get into that a little bit later. I think it's a very important question, but this directly plays into Brave New World, because really the foundation for the Brave New World is scientific advancement. It's scientific achievement. For example, one area that is the first chapter is all about ethnogenesis, artificial reproduction, right? So, and what is ethnogenesis? You could ask that question. Like, what is that? Why does that actually matter? We're not engaged in artificial reproduction at the moment, are we? Oh, it doesn't appear so. It doesn't appear so. Artificial reproduction? Heaven. Humans are still having babies. Yes. That is true. That is true. But ectogenesis, this is a term that was coined in 1924. And really, it just recurs to pregnancy occurring in an artificial environment. Okay. I mean, we already have the technology to keep a fetus alive when it's at 21, 22 weeks, right? Doesn't need to be in the womb any longer. So that's already about half the pregnancy. Now, certainly, and at this point, we're not able to simulate a full-scale pregnancy within that lab setting. But you have to assume, with scientific advancement and any progress whatsoever, that time frame, the amount of time that we are able to simulate the pregnancy within the womb, is only going to grow. It's only going to lengthen in time before it's a matter of time we can just simply, let's combine the sperm and the egg, let's simulate the whole environment, yada yada. We create it from scratch, right? That's the ultimate dream of the eugenicists. It always has been. But even without the technological capabilities, I don't even think it's necessary to still have the type of artificial reproduction and really government sponsored reproduction as a main driver in our society, right? Humanity finds itself in a huge fertility crisis. Sperm counts are dropping crazy. Who knows what people have done to themselves with this latest, I won't use the word, so my YouTube friends can continue to watch this program. But, there has been a large-scale depopulation agenda that is taking place over the last several years. We could see the food, the chemicals that are being sprayed in the air, certainly the medicine. All of these areas, and certainly technological advancement in EMF radiation, a huge, huge deal that people don't talk about. What do you think that cell phone is doing when it's sitting next to your testicles in your pocket? I don't think you're spared, ladies. What do you think it's doing to you too? Right? There is a huge crisis of fertility. And as this continues, nobody really talks about this. You hear it every once in a while. Most people know this, but what's actually being done? Nothing. Nothing is being done. We continue on this same path, and we're letting it get to the breaking point. Why? Why are we allowing it to get to the breaking point? Why are we not doing anything about it now if we truly cared about mankind? The reason is that the government, it is sponsoring this. I mean, it's obvious. They know this is happening. And since they know it is happening, The only reason they wouldn't do anything about it is if they want it to happen. It seems obvious, don't it? It seems obvious when you start connecting all the dots. So why do they want it to happen? Why do they want human beings to practically become infertile? When they themselves, when the government, well, the government at the moment is still run by human beings. This system is being created by human beings. Why do they want this? Just imagine the power that the state will have when they are able to decide and determine the means of reproduction for our species. With the elimination of human reproduction and our own ability to choose when we create offspring, this allows the state to take complete control of the children, the type of human beings they would like to bring into this world. That's the ultimate eugenicist wet dream. Let's be realistic here. So with this is going to come an elimination of parenting. Most people are going to be infertile. You will have a select few. Even in Brave New World, this is the case. There is no parenting. Everybody is raised by the state. Everybody is raised by the state, and they really create this caste system. They decide where each human being, when they are born, what caste they are placed into. And then their programming is determined by that caste. And the castes are all designed to continue and further allow this automated system to flourish. Everybody plays a specific role in ensuring that this system continues. And if from the very moment you are born, you are placed into this caste, and you are programmed from the moment you are born, really, there's biological programming taking place in the womb, the artificial womb. How can you escape from that? How can you escape from that? That is your reality. There is no free will in that case, right? We are completely programmable. And you might have the one Bernard who craves something more, but what is he going to do to get that? Even when he's determined, he's shipped off to an island because he's too much of a radical. He doesn't want to go. Oh, sorry, give me another chance. Oh, sorry. Be part of the Brave New World. What? So, as I was saying, there's going to be an elimination of parenting with this. And because most of us will be infertile, we won't have the ability to procreate. Really, the elimination of parenting is already starting. The number of child protective service, I guess you could even you call them abductions, has risen dramatically each year. Why is the government incentivizing in terms of money, paying out for more kids to be taken every year? Certainly, Child Protective Services plays a critical role for kids who need to be in the foster system if the parents are neglectful, abusive. Obviously, I'm not saying get rid of a service like that, but when it is weaponized to meet a government agenda, if a parent has their kids taken away because they decide, I don't want to get this kid a shot, or I'm going to homeschool them, you don't think CPS is serving an agenda there? The precedent is already being set for the state to take over parenting. It's well underway. It's estimated that 1 in 3 children will be, or the family will end up being investigated by CPS at this point. 1 in 3. So that is only going to continue. And really, the fertility aspect is so crucial because fertility is a foundational piece of freedom. And I don't believe most people realize this. There is such deep sexual trauma and repression and shame in our society. And it's really been a way to invert us from our true spiritual nature. You know, there is freedom to be found within our divine erotic energy. So I had that conversation with Jade Bryce recently about liberation of the erotic energy. It's crucial to find oneness and find God through the tantric practices of liberation. That's what I'll call them. They are practices of liberation. Our own future will be decided by our own relationship with our own fertility. That's a big claim to make, but it's the truth. Because what happens when you choose to take back your fertility? What happens when you choose to liberate yourself from the shame? When you choose to embrace the divine erotic sexual liberation of yourself. And this doesn't mean, again, there's such a deep inversion of our society about sexual liberation. They think it means polygamy, non-monogamy. They think it means sleeping around. It's not any of that. Non-monogamous people tend to just be afraid of commitment. My own experience. If you're non-monogamous and listen to this, well, prove me wrong. I have yet to find one who's proven me wrong on that. You really got to go inward and look at yourself and see where the shame lies. See how you're repressing that part of yourself. We are not, and it's unfortunate because we're not. I think the Bible implies that we are sinned simply for our sexual erotic energy. That's what it implies through the story of the birth of Jesus. And I believe that's incorrect. It is a vital piece to who we are. Your sexual energy is your creative energy. Somebody who is deeply creative tends to have a more open sexuality, for example. Not all the time, but it seems to be the case. So reclaiming our fertility in a sacred way can really unlock a spiritual portal for you to go into. If the state is able to take over fertility, it's all over. It's all over. I said, you give up your fertility, you give up your meaning. You're here. What is the meaning? You can ask, what is the meaning of life? Well, the meaning in itself is sensory perception, like I said. But the meaning in itself is self-generated. And in order to generate anything, because again, creative energy is sexual energy, one and the same, generated from your sacral chakra. In order to generate anything, you must have creativity, right? What is creativity? You could ask yourself. It is your own unique expression. It doesn't have to be a painting. It doesn't have to be a poem. It is your unique expression and whatever that looks like and how you choose to show up in the world. That is creativity. As long as you are fertile, you are creative. As long as you are creative, you are fertile. So find ways to really engage in that. Because ultimately, with this fertility crisis, we are going to have a scenario where, for the greater good, this ideal of the collective, the government stepping in for our greater good. Sure, they can take on the parenting. They can take on this role. That won't be necessary if we choose to wake up. Why do you think, this might be a little bit of a controversial topic, But why do you think there is mass gender confusion being pushed on kids? Why do you have drag queen story hour all over the place, showing up all at the same time, all over the world? What a coincidence. I don't know how you coincidence theorists will explain that one. But what is the purpose of that? People tend to sort of just put a surface level band-aid answer where they say, oh, these people are just pedophiles, or these people, yeah, maybe you're not wrong on that. But there is a deeply sinister agenda taking place where it's not about necessarily serving a gratification need. At least the people who, let me take a step back. Why does something show up all over the world at the same time? Something like Drag Queen Story Hour. This is just one small example, right? It is an illusion that any of this stuff is by coincidence. This is all planned, preordained, if you will. And it shows up all at the same time because this global cult, which does have an agenda, as choosing to have this play out all over the world. It really only takes a handful of people to push an agenda and make it worldwide. It only takes a handful. Most of the people who are on the ladder, and I would encourage you guys to go listen to my Committee of 300 podcast if you want to learn about the organizational structure of this one world government that I'm referring to right now. Most of the people on the ladder don't understand what they're serving. They see Drag Queen Story Hour, I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. They don't think about the bigger picture here of why it's showing up all over the place at the same time. Who's behind that? I think we know who's behind that. So, as I was saying, it's not necessarily even about meeting this sort of sick gratification for the drag queens or whoever it may be. For the Democrat, a lot of people like to blame the Democrats. So, if you're still in the left versus right paradigm, my gosh, well, you wake up. It is not that politics is the biggest breads and circuses I've ever seen in my life. It is a joke. It is a joke to sit there and claim, oh, it's the Democrats' problem. It is way bigger than Democrats, my friend. It is way bigger than the Republicans, my friend. It is way bigger than Joe Biden, who is a pedophile. It is way bigger than Donald Trump. You got to realize that is a circus act for your amusement. Voting. Yeah, not doing that. The purpose of something like a Drag Queen Story Hour and the gender confusion. Sorry, I went on a little bit of a tangent there with the politics. The purpose is to create gender confusion amongst the kids. It's as simple as that. They don't want the kids to know what is male, what is female, right? What does somebody who's transgender do when they start injecting themselves with hormones of the opposite sex? They make themselves infertile, right? And this is something that happens in the Brave New World. All the people who are chosen to be infertile are injected with opposite sex hormones regularly. Now, it's not enough to, well, that's actually not true. I was going to say it's not enough to make a lady grow a beard, but that is actually not the case. There is a mention of a lady with a beard in the Brave New World, now that I think about it. So, this is one of those topics where it's, you can't sit here and blame transgender people. You can't sit here and get angry at them. I'd say, if anything, they might be some of the biggest victims of them all in this thing. Oh my goodness. Somebody who has been convinced, they have a crisis of identity, which is fairly common in the youth, especially nowadays. And you throw in this gender confusion, you throw in these agendas, you throw in this narrative, the social contagion, which has been documented You start pumping them with opposite sex hormones. Like, it's just sad. It's just sad. And you look at somebody like Chloe Cole, for example. Everybody should go read up on her story, who detransitioned. But guess what? She already had her breasts removed, are now infertile. But she's what, 18 or 19 years old right now? And she's speaking up and say, hey, this is what happened to me. And there's people who detransition who get shunned. So, we really need to start looking at the bigger picture here. 20 years from now, what are these kids going to think about? The kids who saw Drag Queen Story Hour, see a big old drag queen dressed up with a beard and tits. Whoa. Of course they're going to be like transgender and have identity crisis. My goodness. Because we are inverting what we know to be true about our nature of ourselves. We are disconnecting and traumatizing from a very young age. And, I can speak as somebody who has unrooted, deep sexual trauma within my own psyche. Or, it's one of the, if you have that present, your development and your fertility is outsourced. You voluntarily give it away because there is so much pain and shame present that you don't want your fertility. You don't want your sexuality. As in the Brave New World, they state it is a nuisance. So the gender confusion and the traumatization of our children, it needs to stop. Quite frankly, it is possibly the most sickening aspect of all of this. And, this is not me sitting here knocking transgender people or even drag queens. Somebody wants to be a drag queen, go for it. Somebody, if you want to be transgender, I'm not going to stop you. Go for it. But we really need to start having conversations about the bigger picture. And parents need to start understanding what is going on in their kids, what is going on in the education system. Look at the brave new world that's being created. Let's look at this global picture. What is the outcome of the brave new world? Artificial reproduction, fertility, reproduction in the hands of the state. The main purpose of the individual in the brave new world is to serve the autonomous system that is in place through scientific advancement, through assembly line manufacturing, and ultimately is upholding a greater good of happiness, pleasure, hedonism. The only purpose of the individual is to play their designed role within their social caste and be happy, feel pleasure. You want me to sing the Orgy Porgy song again? Orgy Porgy, Ford and fun. Kiss the girls and make them one. Boys at one with girls at peace. Orgy Porgy gives release. And the Orgy Porgy song, I find it very fascinating. There's a reason I just sang it on the podcast. Because the combination of music and chanting, it simulates a religious experience. It's a ritual. Their hedonism is a ritual. The sacred orgasm, the unity with God is ritualized. But it's not ritualized for a deeper meaning, for individual connection with God, for that reverence of the fertility. It's ritualized to keep people coming back to pleasure, to keep people coming back to the Ford and fun, kiss the girls and make them one. You see how they're desiring oneness. They're desiring God and they don't even realize it with the orgy porgy. And Everybody engages in this ritual at least once a month, sponsored by the state, and they engage in a group orgy, create this euphoria, and in a way, it allows the individual's spiritual inclinations to be met. And this is what's taking place already in our society. Most people engage every single day when they wake up. It is about escaping the pains and the shame and the trauma and the programming and falling into pleasure or to addiction, whatever it is. Sports, for example, bread and circus. And don't get me wrong, I love a little UFC breads and circus. Bring it. Like, bring it. I can't wait till, I don't know. Well, you know, there actually isn't any huge fights I'm looking forward to right now. No, I don't have any specific fighters to name drop at the moment. But I love a little UFC. I love a little sports. But you can see how people make sports religion. They worship their football team. They worship Tom Brady. Illuminati? Maybe. I don't know. They worship the NFL. They worship Conor McGregor. People certainly did. I don't know if they do now. But you see what I'm saying. And if you go to, and Jordan Peterson outlined this many years ago, brilliantly. You go to a sporting event, everybody cheers and they chant and they're all together and they sing. And when their player scores the goal, they get up and celebrate. And what are they celebrating? They're celebrating this higher ideal, this unconscious desire where, wow, look how he just aligned himself to reach this great aim and achievement. Maybe I could do that. Why do you think kids look up to athletes or want to be an athlete or want to be a YouTuber or want to be this or want to be that? They say, maybe I could do that. It's the individual spirit. The Brave New World is the ultimate inversion of the individual spirit. It plays on our deepest addictions, really, and uses them. The deepest pleasures, not just addictions, deepest pleasures, deepest comforts, and uses them to meet all of our needs on a baseline level. It gives us the ultimate safety. How many people do you know in your life that just live for safety? Why do you tell the people you love to be safe? Do you really want them to be safe? Or do you want them to be free? In a lot of ways, you could say the Brave New World is already here because most people have already succumbed to the mindless pursuit of pleasure. They're devoid of deeper meaning. And I think a lot of people are looking. But what we have to realize, there is no meaning that is truly material. If you outsource your meaning to be external, to be material, to even be another person, you are succumbing to the Brave New World ideology. The only meaning is the one that lives within yourself, that lives within your own heart, and that lives within the present moment. You have to stop seeking to be free. It doesn't mean not have goals, not have ideals, but it is the seeking itself. The continual search for something outside of ourselves that we don't truly know how to grasp we have to recognize that that desire is our yearning for God. It is our yearning for oneness. That's all it is. So what are the practices that'll bring you back into oneness? Let that be the meaning. Can your state of awareness be such that you are in constant harmony and interconnection with the deeper truth of who you are? Is it on a soul level? Is it beyond that? I'll let you answer that. Only you know who you are. Well, I suppose that's not true. We all know who we all are. Every single one of us. I am you, you are me. There is no separation. It's an illusion. So how do you live in a way that, one, recognizes that, but two, honors the reverence of the individual soul and spirit? Because even our oneness is inverted to trick people into conformity. Conformity disguised as unity. So I'd recommend you guys read Brave New World. There's quite a bit in there for, I'd say, for you to meditate on. Even just sitting here talking about this has given me a deeper level of insight, deeper idea. I almost feel like I'm kind of just returning into my body in a sense. Like that was like, whoa, just pure, almost flow state, if you will. So, I'm sitting with the heart right now and feeling as to if there is anything more. And I believe all the major bases were covered. But really, I'll just ask this. What do you want? What do you want? You want to be happy? Do you want love? Do you want freedom? What is it? What is it that you want? And can you live with the choices of what you want, if that is what you're going to pursue? If you want happiness, think about that one. What is happiness? What would it mean to be perpetually happy? What does it mean to be free? What does it mean to love? Are those things meant to be sought outside of oneself? Or are they simply meant to be remembered? Again, I'll let you meditate on that one. There might not be a right or wrong answer, it just simply is. Just simply is. No. I'll say that's going to wrap up this podcast. Head on over to mcdermott.substack.com. Subscribe there to Deeper Meaning. Reconnect with a deeper meaning. And you'll never miss a podcast. Get good poetry, get essays, get cool stuff. Connect with me, dog. Let's do it. Let's have some fun over on mcdermott.substack. I'm telling you, I think it's probably one of the better places to go and subscribe. Not that I'm biased or anything, but good spot. And whatever podcast platform you're on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. What up, YouTube? I haven't forgotten about you. Hopefully I haven't been taken down yet. They've been a little less strict. So that's cool. Hey, I'm almost up to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Please subscribe. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Please subscribe. Send it to somebody. I love you. Subscribe to whatever platform you're on. It's greatly appreciated. Helps more people find the show. And I think, we could all use this type of reflection, engage in this, because it's very clear the direction that we are moving in. So, time for people to wake up. Slept in for long enough. Here we go, baby. And yeah, I offer donation-based tarot readings. If you're interested in that, shoot me a message. But that's gonna wrap up this episode. Like I said, be sure to subscribe. We got some great interviews coming, and whenever I feel called to just hop on a solo cast, I do. So you can expect more of those. This was I thought of this earlier today, and I'm like, yeah, when I get home later, I'll do that. Sure enough, then I had about 4 bullet points of total. This is what these are some ideas, and I need to just let it flow. So that'll happen again in the future. I guarantee it. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful rest of your life. Tap into that beauty, tap into that love. Connect with who you are. There is no greater good. There is only love and individuals choosing to harmoniously integrate with one another and be of service. Bless you, you beautiful soul. I'll see you on the next episode. So long.